His name was Thomas Brennan, and he died on a Tuesday. I remember because Tuesdays were my surgical days at Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. I had just finished a 7-hour operation on a newborn with a diaphragmatic hernia. The surgery went well. The baby would live, but Thomas wouldn't. Thomas was 43 years old, a high school English teacher, father of 3. He coached Little League on weekends. He came to the emergency room that morning complaining of indigestion. By noon, he was dead. Massive myocardial infarction. That's what we called it in 1964. A heart attack so severe that his left ventricle simply stopped pumping. I wasn't his doctor, but I was in the hospital when it happened. I saw them wheel him past my office. I saw the crash cart. I heard the code blue announcement, and I saw his wife standing in the hallway holding their youngest daughter, trying to understand how her healthy husband had just died from indigestion. That image stayed with me for 60 years. But here's what haunts me even more. What killed Thomas Brennan in 1964 at age 43 is now killing Americans at age 23. I'm Dr. C. Everett Koop. I served as Surgeon General of the United States for 8 years under President Reagan. Before that, I was a pediatric surgeon for 35 years. I've performed more than 10,000 operations. I've seen diseases rise and fall. I've watched medical miracles save millions of lives. But I've also watched as the disease that killed Thomas Brennan, coronary artery disease, has gotten younger, faster, and deadlier. And in 2026, we're about to see the full impact of a trend that's been building for 20 years. Let me tell you a story that will explain everything. Thomas Brennan should not have died at 43. He wasn't overweight. He didn't smoke. He played tennis twice a week. His father lived to 78. His mother was still alive at 82. But there were warning signs we didn't recognize in 1964. 3 months before his death, Thomas mentioned to his family doctor that he felt a tightness in his chest when he climbed the 3 flights of stairs to his classroom. The doctor told him he was probably out of shape, suggested he get more exercise. 6 weeks before his death, Thomas told his wife he felt unusually tired. He was falling asleep on the couch every night at 8 p.m. She thought maybe he was working too hard, grading too many papers. 2 weeks before his death, Thomas experienced what he described as the worst heartburn of my life after dinner. It lasted for 20 minutes. He took 2 Tums and went to bed. That wasn't heartburn, that was unstable angina, a warning that his coronary arteries were critically blocked and his heart was crying out for oxygen. But in 1964, we didn't have the diagnostic tools we have today. No stress tests, no echocardiograms, no CT angiography, no blood tests for troponin or BNP. We had a stethoscope and an EKG machine, and by the time the EKG showed something, you were usually already dead. Thomas's autopsy revealed that his left anterior descending artery, the one we call the widowmaker, was 95% occluded, blocked almost completely by atherosclerotic plaque. That blockage didn't happen overnight. It had been building for years, probably since his early 30s, but we had no way to see it, no way to stop it, no way to save him. After Thomas died, I became obsessed with prevention. I started reading everything I could about cardiovascular disease. I attended conferences, I talked to cardiologists, I studied epidemiology, and I discovered something shocking. Heart disease wasn't a sudden event. It was a slow, progressive disease that started decades before the first symptom. In the 1960s and 70s, we began to identify the risk factors: high blood pressure, high cholesterol, smoking, diabetes, obesity, sedentary lifestyle, and we started to see results. Death rates from heart disease began to decline. By the 1980s, we were preventing heart attacks. We were saving lives. I thought we were winning. But then, around the year 2000, something changed. The kids started getting sick. In 2003, I received a call from a colleague at Johns Hopkins. He was a pediatric cardiologist. He wanted my opinion on a case. A 17-year-old boy had collapsed during basketball practice. They revived him, but his cardiac workup showed severe left ventricular dysfunction. His ejection fraction was 25%. For context, a healthy heart has an ejection fraction of 55-70%. This boy's heart was failing at age 17. My colleague asked me, "Chick," that's what my friends called me, "have you ever seen heart failure in a teenager with no congenital defect?" I hadn't. But over the next decade, I would see it more and more. Young people, teenagers, people in their 20s and 30s, showing up with conditions we used to see only in 50 and 60-year-olds. Hypertension, type 2 diabetes, metabolic syndrome, fatty liver disease, and yes, coronary artery disease. In 2015, a study published in JAMA Cardiology shocked the medical community. It showed that heart attacks among people aged 35-54 had increased by 2% per year over the previous decade. That might not sound like much, but compounded over 10 years, that's a 20% increase. More importantly, the study study found that younger heart attack patients were more likely to die than older patients because doctors didn't expect it, because the patients didn't expect it, because everyone assumed you had to be old to have a heart attack. But age is no longer a protection. So what happened? Why is the disease that killed Thomas Brennan at 43 now killing people at 23? Three things changed, and they all happened in the last 25 years. In 1980, ultra-processed foods made up about 30% of the American diet. Today, they make up 60%. What are ultra-processed foods? They're products created in factories, not kitchens. They contain ingredients you can't pronounce. They're designed by food scientists to be hyper-palatable, to override your natural satiety signals and make you eat more. Doritos, Pop-Tarts, frozen dinners, fast food, breakfast cereals, protein bars, flavored yogurt, most of what's sold in the middle aisles of the grocery store. These foods are not just empty calories, they're inflammatory. They spike your blood sugar, they increase insulin resistance, they damage your gut microbiome, they promote oxidative stress, and most importantly, they inflame your arteries. Remember, heart disease isn't caused by cholesterol, it's caused by inflammation. Cholesterol is just the band-aid your body puts on inflamed, damaged arteries. When you eat ultra-processed foods every day, sometimes multiple times a day, you create chronic, low-grade inflammation throughout your entire cardiovascular system. And chronic inflammation is like a slow-burning fire inside your arteries. By the time you're 30, that fire has been burning for 20 years. In 1964, when Thomas Brennan died, the average American took about 10,000 steps per day. Today, the average American takes 3,000, 4,000 steps. We sit at desks, we sit in cars, we sit on couches, we stare at screens. The human body was designed to move. Your cardiovascular system requires movement to function properly. When you move, your heart pumps blood, your arteries dilate and contract. Your endothelium, the inner lining of your blood vessels, releases nitric oxide, which keeps your arteries flexible and healthy. But when you sit for hours at a time, day after day, year after year, your cardiovascular system atrophies. Your arteries become stiff, your blood pressure rises, your blood sugar regulation fails, your inflammatory markers increase. There's a term for this. Sitting is the new smoking, and it's not an exaggeration. Studies show that people who sit more than 8 hours a day have a 147% increased risk of cardiovascular events compared to people who sit less than 4 hours. 147%. Our grandparents didn't need gym memberships. They walked to work, they did physical labor, they gardened, they moved naturally throughout the day. But we've engineered movement out of modern life, and our hearts are paying the price. Change number 3, we're stressed like never before. Thomas Brennan lived in a different world. In 1964, there was no internet, no social media, no 24-hour news cycle, no smartphones buzzing with notifications every 30 seconds. When Thomas came home from work, he was done. He ate dinner with his family, he read a book, he went to bed. His nervous system had time to recover, time to shift from sympathetic, fight or flight, to parasympathetic, rest and digest. But today, we're in a state of chronic sympathetic activation. We wake up and immediately check our phones. We scroll through social media, comparing our lives to everyone else's highlight reel. We read news designed to make us angry or afraid. We answer work emails at 10 p.m. Our cortisol levels never come down. Our adrenaline is always elevated. Our nervous system never gets a break, and chronic and stress destroys your cardiovascular system. When you're stressed, your blood vessels constrict. Your blood pressure rises. Your blood becomes more likely to clot. Your immune system releases inflammatory cytokines. Over time, this causes endothelial dysfunction, damage to the inner lining of your arteries. And endothelial dysfunction is the first step in atherosclerosis. We're living in a pressure cooker, and our hearts are exploding. Last year, I received an email from a young cardiologist in Boston. She wanted to share a case with me. Her patient was a 23-year-old woman, I'll call her Sarah, who came to the emergency room with chest pain. Sarah was a recent college graduate. She worked in tech. She was bright, ambitious, and by all accounts healthy. But her troponin levels were elevated. An EKG showed ST segment changes. A coronary angiogram revealed a 70% blockage in her left anterior descending artery. At age 23, the same artery, the same blockage, the same disease that killed Thomas Brennan in 1964. But Sarah was 20 years younger. The cardiologist asked me how is this possible? How does a 23-year-old develop coronary artery disease? I asked about Sarah's history. She didn't smoke. She wasn't obese. Her cholesterol was only slightly elevated. No family history of early heart disease. But when we dug deeper, a pattern emerged. Sarah had been been eating ultra-processed foods since childhood. Pop-Tarts for breakfast, fast food for lunch, frozen dinners, energy drinks, protein bars. She worked 60, 70 hours a week, sat at a desk all day, barely slept, chronic stress, no exercise. For 23 years her body had been under assault, and her arteries had finally reached their breaking point. Sarah survived. We placed a stent. We started her on medications. We counseled her on lifestyle changes. But here's what keeps me up at night. Sarah isn't an outlier anymore. She's becoming the norm. We are now seeing the first generation of Americans who have eaten ultra-processed foods their entire lives reach adulthood. Kids born in the 1990s and 2000s grew up on Lunchables, Gatorade, and McDonald's. They've been sitting in front of screens since they could walk. They've been chronically stressed since high school. And now they're in their 20s and 30s and their hearts are failing. The data is undeniable. Between 2000 and 2020, the rate of heart attacks in people under 40 increased by 2% per year. That's already alarming, but preliminary data from 2024 and 2025 suggests the rate is accelerating. We're now seeing increases of 3-4% per year. If this trend continues, and there's no reason to think it won't, 2026 will mark a tipping point. The age at which Americans experience their first heart attack will drop below 40 for the first time in recorded history. Think about that. Thomas Brennan died at 43 in 1964, and we thought it was tragic. We thought it was too young. But in 2026, dying of a heart attack at 43 will be considered old because the new victims will be 33 or 28 or 23. Here's what makes this crisis even worse. The warning signs are there, but nobody's paying attention. Young people don't go to the doctor. They don't get checkups. They don't monitor their blood pressure or cholesterol. They assume they're invincible. They assume heart disease is an old person's disease. And by the time they realize they're wrong, it's often too late. Let me tell you the 3 warning signs that young people ignore. The same signs Thomas Brennan ignored in 1964. Not the kind of tired you feel after a bad night's sleep. I'm talking about crushing, persistent exhaustion that doesn't improve with rest. You wake up tired. You need multiple cups of coffee just to function. You fall asleep on the couch every evening. Most young people blame stress, or their job, or lack of sleep. But persistent fatigue is one of the earliest signs of cardiovascular dysfunction. Your heart isn't pumping efficiently. Your tissues aren't getting adequate oxygen. If you're under 40 and you're constantly exhausted, get your heart checked. You walk up a flight of stairs and you're winded. You play with your kids and you have to sit down. You feel like you can't get a deep breath. This isn't being out of shape. This is your cardiovascular system failing to meet the demands of normal activity. Thomas Brennan felt this. Sarah felt this. And millions of young Americans are feeling it right now and ignoring it. Not crushing chest pain. That comes later. I'm talking about pressure, tightness, squeezing, or burning in your chest. It might feel like heartburn. It might come and go. It might happen after a big meal or during a stressful moment. This is unstable angina. Your heart is telling you it's not getting enough blood flow. Don't take antacids and ignore it. Get it checked. Now, I'm 68 years old. I've spent my entire career fighting diseases that kill Americans. In the 1980s, I fought tobacco. We saved millions of lives. Now I'm fighting a disease that's more complex, more insidious, and more dangerous than smoking ever was. Because smoking was a choice. But the lifestyle that's killing young Americans today, most people don't even realize they're living it. Here's what you must do, not next year, not next month, but right now. If you're under 40, your doctor probably won't suggest a cardiac workup. You have to ask for it. Get your blood pressure checked. Get your cholesterol checked. Get your fasting glucose and hemoglobin A1C checked. Get your C-reactive protein checked. If you have any family history of heart disease, ask for a calcium score CT scan. This test can detect arterial calcification, early atherosclerosis, before you have any symptoms. It's not covered by most insurance. It costs about $100. It could save your life. I don't care if it's convenient. I don't care if it tastes good. I don't care if it's all you know how to cook. Ultra-processed food is killing you. Eat real food. Food that grows from the ground. Food that had a mother. Food that doesn't come in a box with a barcode. If your great-grandmother wouldn't recognize it as food, don't eat it. You don't need a gym membership. You don't need fancy equipment. You just need to move. Walk 30 minutes a day. Take the stairs. Park farther away. Stand while you work. Do anything that gets your heart pumping and your blood flowing. Your cardiovascular system is a use it or lose it system. If you don't use it, it will fail you. Because it does. Chronic sleep deprivation increases inflammation, raises blood pressure, impairs glucose metabolism, and accelerates atherosclerosis. You need 7 to 8 hours of quality sleep every night, not when you have time. Every night. Turn off your screens an hour before bed. Make your room dark and cool. Establish a routine. Sleep is not optional. It's medicine. Listen, I know life is stressful. I know you're overwhelmed. I know you feel like you don't have time for self-care. But chronic stress will kill you faster than any other lifestyle factor. You need a daily practice: meditation, deep breathing, prayer, time in nature, exercise, whatever works for you. 10 minutes a day, that's all I'm asking. 10 minutes to turn off the sympathetic nervous system and give your heart a break. Thomas Brennan died on a Tuesday in 1964. He was 43 years old. His widow lived another 50 years. His children grew up without a father. His grandchildren never knew him, all because we didn't recognize the warning signs. All because we didn't have the tools to prevent what killed him. But you do. You have the knowledge. You have the tools. You have the opportunity to change your trajectory. What killed Thomas Brennan doesn't have to kill you, but you have to act. Not tomorrow, today, because 2026 is coming, and the choices you make right now will determine whether you're a survivor or a statistic. I've dedicated my life to saving lives. I can't examine you. I can't prescribe you medication. I can't perform surgery on you, but I can tell you the truth. Your heart is under attack, and if you don't defend it, it will fail you. Don't let 2026 be the year your story ends. Let it be the year your health began.